Welcome everybody to another episode of Let's Talk Restoration. This is the talk show where we love to talk about God restoring people's lives, people who have gone through hurt, pain, and the transformation that He brings to our lives, thanks to Christ our Savior. In the studio with me today again, Pastor Gwen van Staden, and today our guest for the day, Carina Roos. Welcome, Carina.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. And we are praying that your story will reach so many people and spreading the word of God. And thank you for acknowledging God today in the transformation that He has done in your life.
Our topic for this week, I think, would be effects of trauma. That on a person's body, his soul's dimension, his whole life.
Your emotional state.
Yeah. That will be our topic today, and I think you're the right person giving your testimony to tell the people there is hope.
Amen. Carina, I'm so glad you've got your cup of coffee. Help yourself as well and join us for this lovely discussion today. Carina, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Carina and where are you from?
Thank you for having me here, Era and Gwen. Appreciate it. I was born in Bloemfontein. I'm 38 years old now. Our journey is quite interesting in the sense that we moved quite a lot in our life. My mom got divorced when I was very young. We were not really included in that situation. There was a lack of belongingness, the feeling of lack of belongingness during that situation.
So you say you moved a lot?
Yes, we moved a lot.
So you never had security as a child, a young child?
Yes. It taught us to think on our feet, to start over again very quickly, but it also caused a sense of you cannot, invest too much time or effort in a scenario, a place of people.
Because security and stability plays an important role, especially in a young person's life.
Yes.
Carina,
and you never had that.
You talked to us previously about some stuff that happened at a daycare that had a big influence in your life.
Yes. So even before the divorce, I was placed in a daycare center. The lady was very friendly. She was very well known in the area. From what I understand, I was one of the first youngsters that she took in a daycare center. This was even preschool.
Okay.
I later learned that I was there at the age of 18 months.
Sure.
So this is not memories that your mind can form yet. You can only absorb the environment around you. And the environment was very abusive, very confusing. Her husband was very kind. He used to work during the day. She unfortunately took out her frustrations on the children. As more children came in, I felt the same because I was also the eldest there, and it created a sense where I wanted to protect younger children and from harm and from pain.
Okay, so let's just rephrase. So you actually stepped into a situation of abuse in a daycare center
from a very young age.
Yeah, that's bad. So what type of abuse can you remember?
So I didn't recollect any memories as a baby, but as a younger child, I would say at the age maybe of 4 or 5, there was a day where my mom, left me with the lady. She was very friendly at the door, but I couldn't resist. I screamed so loud because I just couldn't.
You didn't want to stay
there. Yes.
Because you know what's happening.
Yes.
So if I'm correct to say that at that stage you already had a massive amount of anxiety and fear.
Yes.
Regarding the daycare, to the person at the daycare, and you couldn't handle it.
And your mom didn't understand why you didn't want to stay there.
Yes. So often parents think their children just, they're just having an off day. But children actually communicate in their emotions towards, what's happening around them.
Yes.
So my brother and I was there in the beginning, and a boy fell off from a obstacle or a little climb frame there. And she blamed my brother and said it was my brother that did that. So my mom took my brother out and put him in a very lovely daycare center. And I met that lady once, and I actually saw for the first time the difference between a loving day center an abusive one. But as a child, you accept that everything that happens to you is your fault.
And it has to be like that.
And you also accept that it is how it, that's a normal circumstance. You accept it as the norm. So he was left with a lady that had a very healthy daycare center, and unfortunately I stayed with this lady, but as a child you don't speak about it because you're also threatened.
Yeah, I think also at that stage, at that age, it's a lot of questions why mom only took out my brother and not me with.
Yes.
Because it's a question of, doesn't she loves me anymore? Can't she see what's going on here?
Yes, yeah.
And I think that causes a lot of confusion in a person's mind.
Yes. I think there was more of a disconnect because your parents are so busy at work and they're so busy trying to, provide for you as a child. So it wasn't that I saw it as, why does my mom take him out? I just saw it as, this is meant for me. This is my fault. This is my life.
That's what's due for you.
I'm here because I have to be here. I didn't put my mom in the picture at that age. At that age, I took all the trauma on me. And that became my norm. When I arrived there, I need to put up a straight face because they would pick children. And sometimes, you feel like rather let them pick another child for today. You actually become numb to the pain. You just sometimes wish they don't pick you, and if they do pick you, you go home with a numb face as you grow older. But obviously this creates a vacuum of a lot of incidents, and you bury it away because you're ashamed of that, and you also accept it as the norm. So your brain, there's a lot of trauma that happens to your brain and to you physically.
So what
you
did they do to you? What incident did you remember?
One incident that I can remember is that her daughter came back from school. They continued the abuse. So she came back from school and she told me to do her maths for her. And she opened the books and she took a real saw, and she made an example out of me. So there was a lot of that happening, and she said if she cannot do my maths, then this is what will happen to her. So she started to cut my neck, the blood came out, and she told me that if I told my parents that she would kill me next time. And this was from a young student, junior school. So that mental state of her mother was installed in them.
And comes from the mother.
And so they took their turn as well. And she had an elder brother, and he took his turns as well with us.
Carina, just put us in the picture. At that stage, your mom was already divorced from your dad?
They were in the process.
In the process of divorcement.
Yes.
So did you move out of the house, or did dad move out of the house?
I can't remember that at all. I don't have any memories of our house at all. I don't know where we stayed at that point, because we were so excluded from the circumstances. And that's another thing I want to mention, is even though children are young, they want to be included, because otherwise it creates a vacuum that they were not involved with, and that they don't understand. So I think my mom left us a lot with my grandmother, which she was a safe haven. She was a lovely, all I remember is good memories, love, kindness and care. So I think we spent a lot of time with my grandmother after daycare or when we were sick. I can't remember a home as such at all. My mom is also a vague memory from that time. I remember her working very hard, providing for us, and that is as far as my memory goes.
Parents also want to protect. Try not to show you what's really going on.
That's it. Yes.
But at the daycare center, you also mentioned that there was verbal abuse. They pushed you into swimming pools.
Yes. So they would take turns. Her daughter took us out to the swimming pool, and she walked us to the deep end. Now we are little toddlers almost, and she took off our safety gear, and she made an example out of me. Again, I was the eldest as well. I took a lot of it on me as well, because in my mind, I thought that it's best that I take it on me than a younger child that might not make it.
So as a young child, you actually took on the responsibility already of an adult, and you wanted to protect other children.
Yes, so she pushed me in the deep end, and I would sink, and she would, obviously fight for my life, and she would pull me out and then drop me again.
But then you've already had that fear, that anxiety,
Yes.
that shock to your body, and the rejection.
Yes. So again, making an example out of me in water made me fear water up until high school. With the moment I stood next to water, I wanted to faint. It created a very deep sense of I will drown, I will die, and I won't. Helplessness, the feeling of helplessness around water. I've had many nightmares about water. And it is really, as a child, when there's that connection to something, it's a big part of your life that needs to be healed.
It can be a problem the rest of your life.
Tell me, you said your mom remarried.
Yes.
How did you experience the new dad, the new stepdad?
That was quite interesting because I see photos now of the wedding. For me, it was just a social. There was no connection that this is a new father. There was already a disconnect with my real father, and I was too young. We would not sat down. We didn't have a discussion about this. Again, the inclusiveness. It's so important as young as a child. Yes, but even if you're young, you can understand if you are included. So I think this is a big topic for parents to know that even if you go through the worst time in your life, your children want to be included.
And they must know what's going on.
They must know. So what happened was she got married and we moved shortly after that. There was no discussion with us. There was no. This was all vague in my mind. What's going on?
And go.
Yes, and we moved to a very remote location, which was Rundu at the time, the Namibia that we know today, and our point of safety, which was my grandmother, was removed. So my final lifeline was now removed. So now I'm in isolation. I'm in a confusing situation, and unfortunately, he struggled with alcohol, and he was very abusive verbally, emotionally to us as a family.
Towards you as children and towards your mom.
Yes, correct.
So physical abuse.
Yes, it was
verbal
more
abuse
in
the house. Again, at a very young age.
Yes.
Okay.
So he was more abusive towards my mom physically, but at times towards us as well. And it was inconsistent as well.
Okay, so you had gone through quite a bit of trauma at a young age already.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how did you cope in school, with all this?
That's very interesting. Every year that I passed, I was quite surprised because there were so many areas in my work that I cannot recall at all. I don't know how I made it. I don't know how I started off school curriculum, and those days the school curriculums were different as well. Every single region was completely different. I learned to survive. It was survival mode. I don't know how I did it. There was no platform, there was no consistency, there was no build-up.
No security.
And you will usually see that in your numbers. You'll struggle with numbers, or you'll struggle with memory later in years.
Yes.
So I would say that I made it, but I barely survived.
So it's in the school period that you moved so often. I think you said you moved to 8 times?
Yes, we moved 8 to 8.
So every time new school.
Different regions, yes.
And it must have been very traumatic as well.
Yes, and at the same time your brain forms a path that says it's not going well with us in this situation, but we can start over again. So it taught me to think on my feet. I can adapt in any situation and any environment, and no challenge is too big for me. However, because the environment was so abrupt and so destructive, if I could put it that way, it's also not healthy because you don't learn to deal with circumstances. You don't learn to face your mountains. You always want to run away from your mountains. Start afresh. Yes.
Carina, we just touched on the subject of your stepdad.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more at what was going on at home while you focused your trauma on school and tried to excel there. What was going on at home?
So home for me was a house. There's a big difference between a home and a house. At home, he would be loving and caring, and he really loved us. He really loved us because he would give everything. But the moment he started drinking, it was a completely different person. Often he would become very violent to the point where he would break everything in the house, or everything that in our rooms, kick down doors. There was also many years of calling us from our rooms, sitting us down, having arguments with us right through the night. And then the next morning we had to go to school. So often if my mom had to go on a course, we would have to endure that mental and physical abuse, or more mental and verbal. And he would blame us for things that didn't make sense at the time, but we would have to sit and take that in. And the next morning, take a shower, go to school,
Cope again,
continue as if nothing happened. The problem with that is the next morning when he's sober, he doesn't remember that. So he doesn't have memories. He doesn't always have memories of why things are broken in the house. Why did he throw it out? Why did we throw us out? Many times he chased us away, and the next morning he would ask us, why is the things broken? What happened? So that caused a lot of frustration in my mind, because how can the same person cause this abuse and at the same time love us so much? A lot of confusion with that.
We know now, after being in ministry and dealing with people with trauma, we know now that trauma causes people to black out, to do things that they can't remember.
Yes.
They have got no recollection of what they've done. So possibly he's also had his own trauma that he had to deal with.
And that is correct. That's what I found out. Yes.
And unfortunately, it's like a bad pattern. They say hurting people hurt others.
Yeah, monkey see,
If
monkey
you've
do.
been molested, you molest as well.
Yeah.
If you've been hurt, you hurt as well. Until you can break that chain.
That's it.
And Father God can bring healing.
That's
and that is also, unfortunately, what it seems to me, you suffered the result of that.
Yes.
The sad thing about this is a lot of times a person that's suffering from something like that is hearing a lot of voices in his head.
Yes, that's
There's
right.
a lot of confusion in his head. What is real? Who is me? Who is talking to me? And that's why he can't remember always what happened. Who did it? Was it me? No, it wasn't me. Because in his mind there's a constantly going on of a conversation between different what should I call them, persons that a person that goes through a lot of trauma.
Yes.
Each piece of trauma creates his own voice.
That's it.
To speak for him.
That's it.
So this trauma is standing up for this situation, this one standing up for that situation, and in the meantime the core person is nowhere.
Yes.
He's not in control.
He's not in control. He doesn't know what's going on.
That makes complete sense, because what we found was that he would be agitated and he would be restless and he would constantly speak to himself. Often we thought that he was directing that at us, but now that you mentioned that, when
the voice
that must have been him speaking to himself, coming from his trauma, because he comes from a very abusive home himself.
That's
a reoccurrence of stuff taking place, and you can go through, each and every person can go through his own life and he will pick up a lot of reoccurrences that take place in his life, and he can't explain it, why it's happening, because it's stuff that's not been dealt with.
Yes. And at the same time, if I was hurt, my father would go all out, and I say my father because I grew up as him being my father. So he would go all out and he would sort out that he loved me very much. So, but as a child, that can cause a lot of confusion when you see that and when you experience it and you don't understand where it's come from.
I think it's a question of that's you keep on telling your child, I love you, and a person associate love with abuse.
Yes.
The more abuse, the more love.
Yes.
And that's actually very sad. That's sad.
That can also happen. So they can associate love with abuse, or they can just feel that you can't trust people. You can't trust what they say. So that is the disconnect that I would say I formed with him. I kept him at a distance. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your high school years. How did you cope?
So high school years, I asked my mom to put me into boarding school, again, so that I can get away from my house. And I felt that it was a safe environment for me to meet other students and to excel. In my life, instead of sort of going to people that had the same trauma as me. I wanted people to look up to, and I wanted to excel in life. So that's also the two roads that you can form as a child. The one will go down with people that they feel they belong with maybe gangs or people that substance abuse, that kind of thing. My mom put me in an academic school, and I actually related with friends that I could look up to and that I respected. That had
the influence, a better influence.
Yes, and that had a different family environment than what I was used to. Not everybody's life environment or family environment was perfect, but I could relate with them. You
were longing for stability.
Yes, and if I look at my whole history, that is how I pick my friends, value-added friends that can add value in where I can add value.
And that's a good thing.
Yes.
Because a lot of people or children that go through trauma themselves, by choosing the wrong friends, they end up in more abusive situations.
Yes.
Situations that bring them even worse down. So that actually was a good thing for you.
Yes, because in the situation I identified, this is not me. This is not what I want for my future.
You had a bit of a vision, a little bit of a vision of what you wanted.
Yeah. And that's very important. You get the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's still stuck in my mind. Two brothers, same circumstances. The one made it in life, very successful. The other one ended up in prison, worse circumstances. And the difference is, the one brother said it's because of my dad, the other one said it's because of my dad. So you still have that choice, even as a youngster, what you decide to do with your life.
Carina, you also mentioned a lot of reoccurrences and accidents that happened to you.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So it's very important to note that even though you make the right decisions, even though you have a vision, even though you want better for your life, and you surround yourself with positive people, you still have trauma that you need to deal with, because it sometimes lands in such a deep subconscious state that it will come out at some stage. So in my teenage years, I became, instead of hiding as I did in the past, I came out as a rebellious, nothing can touch me, I'm human in a way. So I had lovely friends that I surrounded myself with. It was in my later years as a child, from standard 5, I would say, I still say standard 5. I'm from those years. But in those years, I had lovely 5 guys that surrounded me as friends, lovely friends. But I would challenge life to the extreme. So I would, if they contemplate going over a ramp, I would already be over the ramp. And there was just no limitation, there was no responsibility on my part, and I ended up, occurring quite a few accidents because of my rebelliousness and sense of adventure, but there was no limit, and also no value in life, no dream in life. So if you value your life, you wouldn't do these crazy things, But I went all out. But
it's also out of hurt and pain that you challenge things.
Yes, I did.
So what type of accidents did you incur?
So we took our bicycles, and it was actually, it's motorbike sort of obstacle course, and I think we climbed over the gate, took our bikes. And I laugh about it today, but actually thinking of that accident, it actually caused a lot of harm over the years. But we went over the ramp, and they boys, they know how to do this. Me, I didn't have a clue, so I pulled the brake. When I went over, I realized how high I was, on a bicycle, a Pick and Pay pink special bicycle. Definitely not made for this type of obstacle course, and I landed straight in my face, on my face. And I think I actually damaged the bones in my sinuses, because I had sinus problems for years after that. My shoulder was injured very badly, and this is how rebellious I was. I strapped my arm up and I ran 10 kilometers a day.
Sure. Complete
denial of the pain that I was in. Yes, I feel it today. And this injury caught up with me. My sinus injury caught up with me terribly. I even had an operation last year to open my sinuses, and the doctor said that it's not a normal sinus operation. And I said, no, but I was never in fights. He says, no, all your bones is actually quite damaged and hurt there. And then I realized, it was that accident. But that was one of it. And there was many where my knee, open knee, and
you were even in a car accident.
So we were in an accident, but there was an implement that came off a truck that went underneath a car. We were not harmed, luckily, that day, but that was quite frightening as well.
Okay. Carina, tell us, through your whole life, what's coming up is this, first I want to excel.
Yes.
I've experienced a lot of abuse and trauma. Your transfer point became, I want to excel
That's
in life. I'm going above this. Then you start challenging life.
Yes. Well,
At what stage did you realize there's more to life and I need it?
But much later in my life. So there was also a time of career. Everything is about me succeeding in career, making money. But I got exhausted of myself. I became exhausted. You can only run from yourself for so many years. And the image in my mind that really shocked me was that I'm portraying a picture that's not real. It's fake. And I've seen so many people that there's small things that cross their path, and then you say to yourself, how did that person's life end in such a tragic way? And they seem so happy, they seem so in control, they were so successful, and I identified myself as being that person.
They hide
and that
a lot
really
of,
scared me.
They hide a lot of things.
Yes.
They hide their trauma, their pain,
Yes.
their suffering, and then at one stage you just burst open.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it started in high school, where you could see it in my writing. I cried out. You could see it in the pictures I drew in my books. That's when I started to become disconnected with my schoolwork. And it's a terrible feeling where you excel to a point and then you have no more control. And I would say it's rooms that you've closed up. And all of a sudden these doors burst open and you have no control of the pain that's coming out. You were taught to close the doors, but now there's so many doors, there's no more capacity for your brain, for your body, for everything. So that is where, at the age of 30, I realized that, even throughout my life, it's been successful, it's been wonderful, but something is missing. And I don't know if I can give another day without really diving into myself and dealing with whatever needs to be dealt with. Even though I thought I dealt with everything, because right through my life, apparently people said, "Well, you were such a testimony to me. You held
You're
my
a strong
hand.
person.
You helped me here. All that type of thing." So my heart was always at the right place. My vision was always at the right place, but the pain still remains. So yes.
And you actually knew God,
Yes.
but you said you went to the UK at one stage,
Yes.
and then you also kind of
Disconnected.
because of the disappointments in your life.
Yes, so completely disconnected there. It gave me opportunity again. It was a runaway opportunity. Even though it was a great environment, I excelled again in my work. But with God, it was a complete disconnect. And every time I found myself in a situation where I could have easily been harmed, where I had too much to drink, that the disappointment over myself, that I got myself in that situation, was quite severe. There's a lot of things in the UK where you felt so far from home, and that you felt that it doesn't matter anymore. You just want to have fun, you just want to be included, you just want to
Acceptance.
be accepted. And then that disappointment on yourself, because your values will always sort of come up. You always measure yourself according, but is this who I really am? I even left running there thinking that maybe running is not for me. Maybe people in school were right. Maybe I'm crazy because I used to run so much and I used to dive so much into sport that maybe I should just replace that with alcohol and friends and have fun for a change. And that was equally as destructive as a positive habit that turns into obsession. It's all destructive. Yes.
So where did the change happen for you?
So I would say at the age of 30, but before that a lot of things happened. My stepfather, my mom begged me to come home from the UK, again so disconnected from my home, and that time there was no smartphones or anything like that. In my mind I created a new life on that side to get away from my house. So I cut off my family, my real father, bearing in mind that we already struggled, being disconnected to each other. So in my mind I thought I would create a new life there, and I would completely cut off my life in South Africa and my parents and everything. I came back 6 months before my visa expired, and in that week my brother received his diploma. We traveled around, my stepfather saw some family members, And 2 nights before I had to fly back, my stepfather sat down on a chair and he said to me, I can't do this anymore, because in the meantime he got an aneurysm when he got sick, and I just didn't have any feeling towards him. I didn't have any respect, nothing left for him. And he told me that he cannot do this anymore, and I told him, as cold as I was that time, well, Dad, then you need to go, because you're a burden to us. That's what I said, my own words. And he passed away that same night. And so another point of disappointment for me, that I didn't have any feeling. I didn't know how to respond. I didn't have any emotion.
Because of your own trauma that you haven't dealt with.
So for me it was, you cause trauma, you need to go. And now that I look back, I've got so much love and respect for him. I see what he's done for us. I see where he's coming from. And so it's a whole different perspective as to the youngster that I was that time.
Remember, I think we actually talked about it a little bit in previous talk shows about the trauma, the damage it created to your brain. I think you mentioned at the stage that your amygdala in a normal person is a lot bigger than the amygdala in a person that's gone through a lot of trauma.
Wow.
So it can go through all your brain functions. Each and everything gets affected. The neurotransmitters gets affected. There's tearing taking place in your brain. The dopamine that's supposed to release energy, release poison.
Yes, I can relate with that.
There's a lot of stuff that's going wrong in your brain.
Yes,
when trauma took place in your life. So there's a lot of healing that needs to take place in a person that's gone through, not only in your soul's dimension, but also in your brain. Needs to restore.
Yes, I can really relate with that. I've had numerous digestive problems my whole life. They could never find the problem. There was a time where I lived on Insure for 7 weeks, even 7 years back. That's how it affected me. Even though I dealt with it, I went to see a psychologist. Like I said, in high school, my mom took me to a psychologist when she realized something is really wrong with my emotions. She took me to a psychologist and that. But like you said, that trauma still has an effect until you get to the root of it.
So you actually became sick in your body?
Sick in my body, very much in my stomach, couldn't digest food, underweight many times. And you just accept it as a condition. My white blood cells was very low. And if I recall, I did amazing things in my career, but it's like you said, there was this contrast between excel and hopelessness. So sometimes I was surprised what I actually achieved, because in my life it was always these two extremes, these two poles of you can do more versus you are nothing, So in your brain, I can really identify with that. It was always a wrestle between I can be more, I can do more, I'm actually more than the other side, that's hopelessness. You're not going to get anywhere. You don't have, that type of emotions.
Carina, where did your journey towards healing started?
That is when I literally felt that I'm in a danger zone where I'm surrounding myself with success, with money, with friends. I used to be known as the social butterfly, but is this really me? And if my life ends, if I can't cope, if I'd end it, what would people would think? Well, she had it all, and that really made me realize. And I saw videos of this, and it created a sense in me that I need to really dive in. So at the age of 30, I had a big party, lots of alcohol, the old Carina going crazy. I filled the whole site, booked out the whole site, and people just came in and came. My mom sat in the corner almost looking at this saying, oh my goodness, do you know all these people? And that was a turning point for me. Yes, it was a great weekend, but as I drove away from there, I said, God, if you are real, I need you to be more real than life itself, because I can't do this anymore. It's exhausting. It sounds funny. You go out, you have a good time, but it's exhausting at the same time, because sometimes you are driven by other elements to fit in, to be accepted, all those things. And subsequently, exactly what you mentioned, Gwen, I ended up in a careers where I've worked myself to the bone in technology environment, and it's completely abstract and completely opposite to my passion. I find myself now in a career after my healing that I absolutely love. And people laugh when they hear that. My family laughs because before I said to myself, I'm in the green industry, and people said to me, or even in the past, I said, please don't give me a pot plant because it's going to die and I will feel so guilty. Now I teach people to plant. I love the green industry, but that is the effect that it can have in your life. If you're not healed, you can go in the wrong direction and you can exhaust yourself to the point where you might end up with heart attack or serious conditions.
Yeah.
So you called out to God and
I surrendered. And what I say when I say surrendered, yes, whether you know God or whether you don't know God, whether you're a Christian or you're not a Christian, I always say to people, if you become quiet and you shut down the noise. Now my noise was parties, weddings. I mean, if I wasn't on somebody's list, I wouldn't know why. What did I do wrong? So I cancelled everything for 3 months. I didn't believe in fasting. For me, that was just a very common way for Christians to lose weight or something in those lines, So I want to really tell the audience, even though I grew up in a Christian home, my home environment told me that the Christian way was very destructive.
No.
So, doesn't matter where you come from or what you believe. If you surrender and you wait upon the Lord and you say, Lord, speak to me, I want to feel you, I want to sense you with all my senses more. You must be more real than life itself. He will arrive.
Amen.
And He will touch your life.
Seek me and you will find.
Yes.
And you sought Him out.
Yes. Did I have a Bible? Yes, all my life. I had many Bibles. But did I really apply them? No. The Bible to me was a terrible drama story. Where there was so many people that caused so many harm, and to me I couldn't relate with people at all. But now, when you connect with the Lord, when He connects with your spirit, it's not just body, it's spirit. He connects with your spirit, He connects with insight. You will surely see life differently. You will surely thrive. But it will be different. It won't be through your own will, your own view, your own energy that you put in. It will be something just above that. Yes.
Carina, tell me, how did you end up at Soldiers for Christ?
I thought I was doing very good. I was doing fine. No more distractions in my life. I put relationships on hold. I found myself. I felt so good. And then I crossed the path of a counselor, Chris. I call him Chris Cross, Chris Albany. What's so special about what happened there is that he's so soft-spoken and so kind.
Yeah.
And me, the moment you raised your voice, the moment you sort of in that time, you would lose me. Even though I come across as nice.
Abuse,
yes. And he spoke so softly to me, he was so kind to me. I immediately accepted him as a father. And he helped me through 2 years of counseling. And then he said to me, Carina, you are ready to take the next step. And I would love to introduce you to Soldiers for Christ. Now, I think if you ask any friend or anybody that know me, I think I'm quite a soldier from what I've endured. As a person.
Through a lot.
The name Soldiers for Christ alone to me was an answer to my identity. Yes.
Yeah.
The effect, however, when I had to come to Soldiers for Christ was a lot of resistance. What do they know more? What do I need to know more? I've been on this journey with lovely people for years now. I've resisted things now for years.
You've arrived.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's years and years and years. That I haven't been in my old ways, if I can put it that way.
You thought your healing process was
done,
fine.
Yeah, you go to a point. Yes,
God is in your life, and things are busy working out.
Yeah, that's it. You don't need more. You're fine.
Yeah. And then
yes. So when you run, you don't run once, you run every day. You run a little bit every day. So also, you don't think of the comrades as I'm going to do the comrades and it's going to be from one town to the other. You plan short trips. You plan you've got long, slow distances. You've got a little bit of hill training. You start with 10 kilometers, then 20, then 30, then 40. And when you run such a long distance, you just put one foot in front of the other until you make it to the end. So that is very important with healing, with restoration, and even if you feel like, what if I can go further than where I am? Even if you think you are perfectly fine, you have been in the best home ever, what if there's more for you in life and you're missing out? Because you think you're fine and you've stopped running. You've stopped putting one foot in front of the other. So Soldiers for Christ, my first experience was I judged the whole time. I didn't feel like I belonged there because everybody there had huge problems and mine wasn't so big. I judged Gideon terribly, especially when he gave his testimony. I thought, well, I wasn't involved in these terrible things, so I don't even know why Chris sent me here. I had funny physical experience when I drove there. The sweat, I was sweating and I didn't feel well. And I thought maybe this is God warning me about this man, because now I already had like an idea where he came from, again judging all the way to there. And then to make matters worse, I was a little bit late as well because I felt sick, I felt nauseous, and I just couldn't understand, why do I feel so bad? I need to sit and listen to these people now, and I don't feel like being here. You will most likely not feel like going to a place where you get your next breakthrough. I want to say this again. When you just before your biggest breakthrough, you're probably going to get your biggest resistance.
Because we know who wants to stop you from getting breakthrough.
So I judged all the way. I sat there, all the people, I judged them. Again, not feeling well, just thinking it was a waste of time. Even though his testimony was very interesting, I wasn't involved in such stuff. So what do I have to do with this? And what was so significant is every time he looked at me, he blessed me. How did I know that? Because he looked at me with kindness. I think he knew what I thought, because I think my face says everything when I look at people. And I think he knew. I judged him horribly. And all I received was kindness and love and compassion. And that made me think, what does this guy have that I don't? Even when he's got the background that he's got. And then I saw Era and I met Gwen there. And it was a tough step for me to take, and with everything, again, in the race, your first few steps your lungs is going to complain, your body's going to complain, you're going to ask, why am I doing this? This is so stupid, people are lying in their bed and I'm up here early. Remember this, in the physical, it's the same as in healing. Your first steps, it's not easy, you can go home, go lie in your bed. Trust me, I've been through this a couple of times, but if you take that step, trust me, there's something at the end of the line there for you.
Carina, tell us what stood out in your ministry with a ministry session with Gideon. What stood out? What was a really wow?
What was addressed?
What opens up a lot of stuff that you understood what was going on.
So for me, most importantly, a lot of people play a part in your life. It's almost like a movie. There's lots of characters. And you get negative characters and you get positive characters. But a lot of them deal with the surface. I've been in many churches, and I previously believed you can only stick to one church. You can only go to one place. But what if the Bible says we're a body? So why do you put God in a box? So a lot of people help me with the surface. And God is a gentleman. If you had to speak to me a few years back, it would have first of all hurt me a lot, because I didn't even come to the realization, and secondly, I would have probably responded very negatively, and you would have probably lost me. But God is a gentleman. It was a journey. It's like a dance, He doesn't twirl you right up in the air to start with. He starts slowly. And when I came to Soldiers for Christ, it was like an iceberg. The only thing I dealt with was the top, but it was the bottom and the deep roots of everything that I couldn't believe how deep your roots can be, right through generations before me. And now that I've gone through this journey, even with all the judgment and everything, that Gideon and this ministry has accepted me with so much love and kindness, and giving the glory to our Father, to our Lord, the whole time through it. And I've seen people how they respond to Him. I've seen the negativity. I've seen almost the abuse towards Him. And I've just seen more love from Him. That's what I realized. This is truly a deep ministry. And this is what Father wants. There's lots of churches out there that give great word, and yes, they carry you to a point. But if you still have these roots, your pain will remain.
Underlying issues.
Yes. So I must clearly state to the audience that I had severe physical pain. I had things that doctors could not explain. And a recent accident where a truck drove into me, it came to light again, where doctors mistreated me, where they injected me with all sorts of medications and everything, where they didn't believe me at times, where I felt isolated at times, where I was abandoned.
We came to you in hospital.
Yes.
You couldn't walk. Tell us a little bit. So you actually experienced physical healing as well.
Yes. And again, in my condition where I realized, okay, I'm an adult now in Christ, I know that we're going through this, Lord, show me. And again, Soldiers for Christ turned up, along with many other warriors. Many abandoned me, many didn't even journey with me. But and I'm talking about any hours, Soldiers for Christ was there for me. And the healing I received is just unbelievable. Along with medical healing, there's so much more that you can learn from your subconscious. Many people say to me, Carina, you've had a miracle, because I fell off 7 meters. That's where my first 2 fractures came from in matric, and I was very destructive that time anyway. But God sent, it's almost like I received the same pain from a light accident, but through the healing, through everything that Soldiers of Christ have done for me, I went through it with so much more joy. I know it sounds very strange, but I did, and I've overcome it, and I'm walking again.
Amen. I just recall that situation where you were in the accident. Your mom also phoned us, and you were in the hospital already for a week. You were in so much pain. You couldn't walk. The doctors couldn't find the problem. Tell us a little bit what happened there, because I remember Gideon prayed for you, and the very next day you were released from hospital. I mean, that's a miracle.
So there was no new broken bone, so they cannot operate. There was a huge nerve effect of the second accident, because straight after the accident I went for physio and all your normal treatments that however didn't work as it did in the past. And then from there the doctors didn't know what more to do. You can only drug somebody up that much and hope they can walk, or they can do only, they limit it in that sense. But all this pain brought back a lot of things from the past again. But now
fractures.
I was actually ready to deal with it even more. I could face it and say, I remember this pain. This was almost something that I know from when I was younger. It was something when I fell off that wall, and I said, God, how can how did this accident happen? I'm
so
supposed
you actually
to be a runner.
had to deal with that.
Yes, so it actually stopped me again. But the preparation that Soldiers put me through to deal with it, and then even during that situation where Gideon spent time with me, and Era spent time, and Gwen spent, yourself, where I was in a state, I lost so much weight, and you can fight so much physically and emotionally, but you do get tired, at some point. And, just to have that hand to say, we understand this more than what you think. I want to tell people, a lot of pain, yes, it's maybe triggered by something like an accident or something, but when you really think about it, the memories that pain brings back can go much deeper than just that moment in time. And I recalled all these things of the past while I had to lie down in my bed alone, because my real father is in Bloem, and my mom now married to Uncle Hannes, who's a lovely husband to her now. They are in Ishawi. They prayed. They were there for me when they could be. But most of the 3 months, I was actually flat on my back looking at the roof. And again, this is where your isolation and then, the counseling and everything comes together for the miracle.
Carina, the big
It's
question.
awesome.
How are you feeling today?
I feel fantastic. The biggest difference is I love my mountains. I don't run from them anymore.
I'll say.
I don't run from them. The biggest difference from Soldiers for Christ versus the rest is I felt good, and then I would run again from my mountains. Now I can face my mountains. There's also a huge change in my love for example, now being in the green world. It's so nice to know that I'm finally where I'm supposed to be. It can make a huge difference for somebody that is completely on a different path because of certain effects in the brain and that sort of thing. But I feel fantastic. I feel so excited about the future, and it's so funny because lots of times when people are under pressure, I'm excited about the situation or the future or even challenges. I sometimes laugh about my challenges and people think, wow, but I do, because I understand better of where I come, where I'm going to, and even if other people respond negatively towards me, it's really okay. They come from a different background. Maybe I was perceived differently in the past. So yes, identity,
I think
restoration.
that the main thing is you start loving yourself as Father created you.
Yes, but understanding myself as well. Yes, and how I respond and what I receive, and I think the biggest breakthrough for me is that Father showed me I'm truly a soldier for Christ. He didn't just put me in a ministry with a perfect name. He surrounded me with soldiers because many people would have run away in my circumstances. Many people came to pray, many people came to visit, and then they started to disappear because you start feeling a little bit, when you see a bad situation, people start to sort of distance themselves from it. But not Soldiers for Christ. Any challenge, anything, and that's also very important. Nothing scares them. Nothing makes them push people away.
I think we also walked quite a deep road when it comes to attacks and reaching out to Father God for help, and every time He came through for us. So there's a video doing the round. Life is not a playground; it's a battleground, and it sometimes is like that. But thanks to Father God and Christ who died for us, we know He is our victory.
Yes, and the discipline in Soldiers for Christ doesn't matter what people say. I laugh when I see how people respond to Soldiers for Christ, because I remember me in the first session. I remember me, and I always say to people, please don't think one session is just enough. I always say to them, and they say, no, but it's dealt with. You don't need a person. No, not a problem. But Jesus still set up the disciples. He
actually walked with them for 3 years.
Yes,
taught them. Yes, they were with Him day and night.
Yes,
and that's something that we also should actually mention.
Yes.
Endurance is important.
Yes,
and especially if you've got emotional trauma, fractures, soul copies, those things don't surface in your first or your second prayer ministering session. You need to dig a little bit. You need to take a few layers off before you get to the root. The sad thing is people sometimes don't continue with the process.
Yes,
and then they just fall back. And they end up where they actually was in the beginning. Even sometimes worse. So continue, keep enduring, like the Word of God says. It is a race that we're running, and we must endure to get the final prize.
So it's a daily thing. Yes, you can. I've had lots of time alone with the Lord, but without a family, I don't even want to say it's a family. There's churches, there's lights, there's music, there's all sorts of fancy stuff. But when I look at this example of Jesus, He provided belongingness, and He provided a family to those that were suffering. That's what I found in Soldiers for Christ. And I still love other churches. I would go to services. I feel my family is Soldiers for Christ. And what I've learned through Soldiers for Christ and through Gideon's experience and his love for the Lord, that is something I really want to mention. All the glory goes back to the Lord. And I'm somebody that really tests you on your word. If you want somebody to test you on your word because of my disappointments, that's me. And I would not send somebody or suggest somebody if I've not gone through it myself.
That's the thing. I think we've been through it. We really can talk the talk.
Yes.
Because we've been put we've walked a hard road.
Yes.
This past few
Yes.
years, but
All I
glory
can
to
say
Father.
is we just instruments.
Yes.
You know?
Yes,
And
yes.
God is doing the healing,
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
the glory goes back to Him. And we're
Yes.
so happy with you.
Yeah.
We've seen the transformation.
Yes.
I mean, we've been together for how many? 2 years?
Yes,
Yeah.
it feels like 10.
And
Yes.
Yeah.
and you look wonderful.
Thank
and
you.
God has really
Yeah.
transformed you.
He
And may
has.
He still continue to bless you on your
Yes.
journey
Yeah.
forward.
Yes, it is important that people know you can do whatever you want on the outside. It's the inside that needs attention.
Amen.
And it's not always going to be easy. It's sometimes going to hurt. But if you want a family that's not going to judge, that's not going to hurt you even more, that's going to be really honest with you. That's the other thing. You need to learn to handle honesty as well. You know?
Yeah, because
So,
if you stand on that Bible, then all
You know?
the truth is
Yeah.
coming
I
out.
think
And God also says in His Word, the truth will set you free.
that's it.
So the
Yes.
truth needs to come out.
Yeah, I think you need to be brave to
Yes.
realize I need help. And I think most of the people in this world is broken,
Yes.
but not all admit it.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
So,
or they don't know where to go for
Yeah,
help,
and
you know.
so the first step you can do is admit
Yes. Yeah.
I'm broken. I need help.
Yes.
I'm not a perfect person that the people saw in the picture and they chat to every day.
That's
I'm
exactly-
also a broken person. I also need
Yes.
comforting. I also need help.
And
I
God
also need
is there
support.
to bring the healing.
Yeah, and I must just mention, since I have journeyed with Soldiers for Christ and on my journey, I've got an extroverted sort of focus instead of an introverted focus.
Your focus
So
changes.
first I looked at myself, instead of saying everything that I am is because of either, no, I first sorted out what can I do for my journey ahead, and then I gave.
Yeah.
But a lot of people give out of brokenness,
Yeah.
and then it gets worse for them.
That's
So I want to mention, look at yourself first, put yourself on the spotlight, don't point, don't look at other people, and then from there give out of wholeness.
Yeah.
And you know what, at the moment, and what I've seen as well, I really, really love the people that cross my path. I really, really adore and love them, because I understand. And I have
Amen.
sympathy and empathy, and I know where to draw the line. I've learned discernment, I've learned wisdom, which I didn't have before. So it was all mixed up, whereas now there's direction.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Okay.
Well, may God bless you, Carina.
Thank
and
you.
It was wonderful to have you here. And we're also blessing you with a cup.
Thank
you may
you.
take it home.
I like the lion.
And
I like the lion over there. And yeah, no, this is very, very special. Very,
Yeah.
very special. And definitely, Let's Talk Restoration, that speaks
Amen.
1,000 words.
Amen.
Yeah.
And hopefully more people would.
Yeah.
Be reached. Yeah. Our prayer is that people will be reached by your testimony, and a lot of them will come to Christ.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Carina.
Thank you,
And
Pastor
remember,
Gwen.
you can leave your comments in the comment box and we will get back to you.
Thank you so much. And please join us again for next week when we've got another new interesting testimony to share. God bless you.
Have a blessed week.